Well, alrighty then.
Ben, you'd be really proud of me. Guess what I had today?
Physical training.
A White Claw.
Yeah?
No way, man.
Hey,
Low
speaking of that
carbs,
noise,
low calories.
hold on. Speaking of that noise that you wanted to filter out, hold on. Hold on.
Oh, there you go.
This ain't
Yeah,
no
but
White Claw.
Nobody's talking though, so it's fine.
Oh, okay.
I only do it if it's interrupting someone speaking.
Guys, you know what's cool is I'm actually using my little, what's it called? The Festool Cool Tainer.
What?
Ooh.
Yeah, my Cool Tainer.
What the hell is that?
It's a sustainer that's a cooler.
It's a sustainer that you just put ice in?
No. It's actually
It's a
got
cooler.
thermal liner.
Ben,
can
it's
hold
been
that
in my
on.
shop every single time you've come over here.
Let me see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Is it
it's-
blue?
Yeah. You don't have one, Ben?
No. Let me see the inside.
Yeah.
You sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have been holding that on me.
Mm.
That was a promo item, I think, in 2013, 14.
Shit, I don't even think we were born then.
Whatever.
You're so old, get it? That was a joke about your age.
Whatever. All right.
So, big things have happened in the last week.
You bought
For us.
another motorcycle.
No, something bigger than that, guys.
You bought a car?
Hold the phone, Ben. Wait.
Wait, hang on. I'm holding the phone.
Hold the phone. I think, well, let's clarify something real quick, because by the time this episode comes out, right, it'll have been out for a while. So, but I want to clarify something, because on the first two episodes, I talked about we only have one level on Patreon.
Yeah.
But that's not true, everybody. We actually have 5, because we let Ben get a hold of it. And he actually had 15 levels there, 1 through $15. And so we had to tone it back a little bit. So we have more than one.
I really wanted everybody to have a choice, you know?
Right. But we do appreciate. So from this point forward, we have more than one tier. I just want to make that clear. Ben, please proceed with what your announcement.
Yeah, so at the time of this recording, we've already recorded the first 2 episodes, or we've already released the first. The second one is being released this Friday, or this in a few days from this podcast. And within 24 hours, we had 10 patrons.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, and so first of all, huge thank you to all of our patrons, every single one of them.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, we sincerely appreciate your patronage, and we really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten from each and every one of you. Like the podcast would be more challenging without your help. A lot more challenging without your help. So, for every patron that is at the $3 tier or above, they get their own personal shout out. The first time that they become a patron. And so for this episode 3, we would like to thank the following patrons, again, who are at the $3 tier or higher. John Decker, Jerry from GA Woodshop. I'm guessing that's Georgia Woodshop.
It's not.
No?
No, it is not.
Okay. So, Jerry at GA Woodshop, thank you.
I used to think the same thing. That's why.
Jonathan Feminella.
Oh.
Chad at Hickory Custom Builds. John Heck Jr. and Seth Keatle. Thank you so much for becoming patrons, and we can't wait to hang out with you guys on the Patreon page.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. A lot of familiar names. Quite a few of those are patrons over on my channel.
Well, we definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely. Hey, Ben, now that we have all these patrons, what color Ferrari did you order?
Purple.
I went with red. Yeah. Sedge, what color Ferrari did you order?
I got a new pencil.
Oh, cool. I mean, we can afford it now.
Sedge doesn't get the same cut that we get.
Oh, true. Good point.
Oh,
Good point.
I feel a little left out.
If I remember correctly, I think it was a 99-1 split.
Which would explain the pencil.
Yeah. No, it's
I mean,
great.
you
We have
gotta-
enough money to pay for Zoom and enough money to pay for the hosting platform. That's fantastic.
It's a nice pencil.
It is a really
Actually,
nice pencil.
we have
It's
enough to
probably
pay
a
for
Piper.
Zoom, and that's about it.
Oh, that's good.
No, it is
And
good. Like I said,
eventually
it's
a new microphone for you because that thing looks weird.
My
Almost
microphone?
Yeah, it almost looks like you're talking into a White Claw can.
Actually, if I just played with perception a little bit, I could make it look like.
Look at that. That's kind of cool. Look
Today's
at you.
podcast is sponsored by White Claw.
White Claw. Hit us up, White Claw. We'll all get white girl wasted on the podcast.
Actually, that's kind of cool looking. I'd leave that.
Yeah. Sponsored by White Claw. Just take a piece of painter's tape.
This podcast is sponsored by White Claw and Sauce Top.
Yeah. Oh. Two things that should not mix together.
No, definitely
To be completely fair.
Jason, what did you get started on this week? You finished the bathroom.
Yes, I'm done with the bathroom. The bathroom is a wrap. Minus some small like laundry hamper, that kind of stuff, little things. I have a couple shelves that I need to make, but we're just not 100% sure on where we want to do them. So it's like the finishing touches, but the main stuff in the bathroom is done, and I am so glad. But
how's the ceiling look?
Good, except it's completely obvious because the guy that helped me totally screwed it up. But,
You didn't pay him, did you?
no, I didn't. I paid him with beer.
Yeah.
I think I gave him too many beers before he did it.
Did you pay him up front? Because
Yeah, I should get my money back. No, I'm just kidding. No, it turned out great. Looks awesome. Especially once we painted it up, looks fantastic. I mean, you can tell that it's a patch job just because the pattern is slightly different, but I mean, it looks great. We're super happy with it. There's actually a couple other areas in the house where you can tell the previous owners had to do some sort of patchwork or something, and it looks like they just took a sponge and plopped it up on the ceiling, and it doesn't look anything like it. So it turned out fantastic. We're really happy with it. I do have one issue. It's not really that big of an issue. But again, this was a big learning experience for me, but the curb. I did not put enough of an angle pointing back into the shower. And I could have sworn for the life of me when I set that thing up, I did that. But what happened was when I put the tiles on with the thin set underneath it, I didn't pay as much attention to it. So what ended up happening is it almost leveled itself out. It still does have a slight slope, but we don't have water leaking out of the shower or anything like that.
are you talking about the top of the step?
Correct. The top of the curb. Yeah.
Okay.
Water is pooling there a little bit, but it's not leaking out. But when we go to open the door, it pushes some of the water onto the floor. But the bath mat catches all of that. So nothing I'm concerned about. But again, it's definitely something I'll pay a little bit more close attention to in the future when I'm doing the tile portion. Because I was all about it before I put the tile on it. I made sure that it had a good slope, but then when I put the tiles on with the thin set underneath it and everything, I wasn't paying as much attention to it. So, but I'm glad that's done, and I'm finalizing the design for the new table, and I will be building that this week. And then another thing I was trying to talk to you about this weekend, Sedge, but Eric Gorgeous, him and I are starting that project for the outdoor table, and I'm building the top.
And you guys been talking
it.
about that for a while.
Yeah, I want to say he already started. I mean, by the time of this podcast, he'll probably be done. But I got to build the top for that, which is very easy. I'm just building the top and cutting a hole out. But I kind of need his measurements when he's done to kind of be solidified before I do that. So those are the two things that I'm going to be starting now. And then I got some cabinet videos here that I'm going to be doing for YouTube, kind of in between the other videos that I already have scheduled. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just excited to be back out in the shop. Actually woodworking again.
Are you heading up to Eric's shop in Detroit?
Yes, that's what I want to talk to you about. So,
okay.
Because I talked to you about you and I both going up there. So it'll probably be in a couple of weeks. I'd say the next 3 to 4 weeks, maybe.
Oh, okay.
And my idea is we just head up there on a Saturday.
Okay.
In the morning and get a little bit of footage of putting everything together, and then we'll bring it back down the next day. But we'll stay the night up there, probably, play poker or something like that, and head back. So
now you're talking. I haven't played poker in years.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh,
So
he's
he's
wicked cool.
hands down one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
Yeah,
So
I met
I'm
him.
glad that he asked.
My wife and I were watching. We got hooked on A Craftsman's Legacy when it was on PBS, and I'll never forget. I was like at a woodcraft vendor show once, and I was there first thing in the morning, and he was as well. And he came over and started talking to me, and I went, "Oh my God, you're the dude from Craftsman's Legacy." And he goes, "I am," and he goes, "You're Sedge." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is really weird." I had to do a selfie, and I sent it to Marianne, my wife, and she freaked.
Did both of you guys
out.
faint?
It was he's just one of the most down to earth dudes you want to meet. You see that in that show, his show, A Craftsman's Legacy. He's into it. He's into working with your hands, and he owns voodoo choppers.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is the coolest. And I enjoy every moment I get a chance when I talk to him. So I'm really excited to go up there with you.
Yeah, funny. He reached out to me a long time ago on Instagram before Workbench Con and sent me a copy of his book, and which I feel terrible about that I still haven't read because I never read.
It's a must read. I read it from cover to cover. He sent me one, and Rick he sent one too.
I've got that I want to read, and then I've got that book that Trent Presler just came out with. Talking about how he ended up building his first canoe and all that stuff. Anyways, I have those books, and I'm really excited about reading them, but I have such a hard time dedicating time to read it. Anyways, I met him at Workbench Con, and I remember I talked to him for like 4 hours one night, right outside of the bar, and I'm just sitting there like, just one of the most interesting people. I actually want him to be, I think I may have talked to you guys about this before, but when we do have guests on, 100%. He's at the top of my list for somebody to come on here. Just a very interesting person. But anyways, what about you, Ben? What have you been working on?
I've been working on my motorcycle. Actually, no. The weekend that we just had was the last softball tournament for my kids, and so it's finally over.
It's finally over.
It was a traveling softball league.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was at a softball field for 15 hours on Saturday.
I mean, that's not really that long. There's 24 hours in a day. It's not like that long.
Wow.
So I'm really glad that that's over now. And Jen and I went to Key West last week, and we had a blast there. That was a lot of
Can't
fun.
hide money. Thanks, patrons.
Wow. Man, I'm going to rethink that pencil of mine.
Yeah.
Patrons are paying for the Bahama trip. That's coming in a couple weeks.
Oh, that ain't right.
But no,
Wait,
I started.
Oh, I was like, are you being serious right now? You went to Key West, now you're going to Bahamas?
No, just joking.
Golly, I need to.
Or am I?
Yeah.
I need to get retired.
Yeah.
I need to get retired. No, but I started reaching out to vendors today for Poplar and trying to find a regional distributor for ultralight MDF. So just waiting to hear back pricing quotes from a couple people so that I can start on the sliding door for Jen.
Nice.
now that travel is all complete. But yeah, just waiting for my kids to finally start school so that I can actually have time to do stuff. So they start next week, which I'm so ready for.
You're starting school too soon.
Isn't there a fall softball traveling league?
Yeah.
No. If there is, my kids will never hear about it.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, my school starts in about 3 weeks. But that's enough time for me to get rocking on some stuff. But that's all I've been doing is just pretty much vacation. So, Sedge, what have you been up to?
Oh, I took the day off from work today.
That's nice.
I was sitting there trying to think of what day it was. Like today's Monday, right?
Yeah, I took the day off.
That's
I'm
awesome.
getting ready to travel again. But I
Oh, that's right.
I turned some knobs on my lathe today. Actually, tool handles for a new coping bow / frame saw. I'll be doing some content on. We're gonna make a couple of those saws, modeled after an antique saw that my dad gave me many, many moons ago. What else? Getting ready to go to JLC Live. Leave Wednesday, setups Thursday. And we're going to be there Friday and Saturday. And then, after the show and pack up, I drive north with our sales manager, and I go on vacation to visit my sister and brother-in-law in Maine, where I'm originally from. So that'd be cool.
Not Boston, everybody. He's not from Boston. He's from Maine.
Yep.
Say park the car in Harvard Yard.
There's a response I usually give to that, but I'm not going to give it tonight. Although we do have creative editing, I'm going to be a nice guy. But I'm so excited. I haven't seen my sister in 2 years. And when I told her I was coming up, she started crying. And it's really, I'm so excited. Unfortunately, my wife's not going to join me, which is kind of a drag, but I'll be a bachelor up in Maine again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be a bachelor the entire month of September.
Woo!
So,
Just going back to the fatherland.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have to try that Ale Emporium out. The Uber's not too far back to your house from there, is it?
No. But I do find that if you do drink and drive, the faster you drive to get off the road, the better.
Oh, no.
I mean, guys, it's science.
It's right.
Science. I'm just kidding. The Green Shooters podcast does not advocate drinking and driving. I just want to make that clear.
But we do advocate drinking and podcasting.
Yes, absolutely.
And drinking and operating heavy machinery. Like I saw.
No.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, wait. No, we're not? Is that against
We're sponsored. It's a sponsor.
Sponsored. Uber, hit us up.
Today's podcast is sponsored by your local ER department.
Yeah. What are we talking about today, Ben? It's your topic.
Today's topic, man. This has been one that it's one that baffles me, but after thinking about it, I can kind of see where some people come from when they ask this particular question. And it's happened to know to you, Jason. I'm pretty sure it's happened to you as well, Sedge. But there's this one question that I get, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube, which is, and they're coming from a good place. It's like, what tool should I get next? Like, that is the hardest thing to answer, right? It's almost impossible to answer. Because it's like, what do? You know, you can't just ask, what tool should I get next? And so, to me, when I hear someone ask that just tells me that they're completely new to woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that as you get more experience and you kind of know what you need for your shop, the question changes to, between these two tools, which one do you think I should get? Or I have this particular problem. Should I get this or should I get that? It becomes like a comparison question. And so the topic is, you know, what do you do? What is your process for deciding what tool to get next? Like, what are the Venn diagrams that you kind of go through that helps you to determine which one you're going to get next or what tool you're going to get next? Like, I have my own reasons for getting the tools that I get, and I'm sure that each of y'all have, you know, completely separate reasons for getting it.
Right.
And so I think to kind of really break this down and so that we can have an actual topic of it is, let's talk to the very beginning woodworker, mm-hmm. right? Someone that is just now getting started. Like they may have done one project, their significant other asked them to make something. They just made it, and it's like, holy crap, I really love doing this. Because I think that's how most of us kind of got started. We made one thing, and I was like, oh, wow, I want to keep doing this. Like, this was fun. And so, for the beginning woodworker, you know, how do you kind of get started on determining what tools you should be getting next? So, Sedge, whenever you started, because you started building with your pops, right?
Uh-huh. Okay.
So, I think Sedge's kind of journey in that may be different because Sedge, you may have already had access to a lot of tools. Whereas,
I mean, to be fair, half the tools that are out nowadays weren't out when he was got started woodworking. Let's make that clear.
You know, I'm going to refrain from answering or retaliating on that.
I mean, there's a reason why you love hand tools so much, because when you started, that's the only thing that was around.
Don't respond to his taunts, said.
So
He's just trying to get the best of you.
When we first started looking at this topic, I have some notes here, and I'm glad you clarified it right in the beginning. Because I could say, hey, you need this, 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 and this if you're setting up shop.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the beginning, I didn't. Okay, so where I'm at now, but I'm going back and forth today and thinking, okay, am I talking to someone setting up the shop, or I'm talking to somebody who has just about everything? What's your next tool purchase? Okay?
And that's and we'll get into that, because I think that it is a different frame of, or a different way to approach it. Someone that has already been doing it, right?
Yep. Okay.
Because
so,
it's almost an impossible question to answer, because like that, there's so many things that go into that. You can't just say, what tool should I be getting? Again, to me, that just tells them that they're inexperienced, that they don't really know, and that they think that there's like this set standard of tools that every woodworker has, which that is completely not the case at all. And so that's what I want to kind of dispel, was there is no set standard. You know, I think that there are a few things that every person probably does. There's probably some overlaps, you know.
Okay, so I am in the midst of working on Sedge Tool with Big D. His name's Derek, and he's setting up a shop. And I know what he has. He has a lot of Festool, and that's how we started Sedge Tool. He was buying a lot of Festool. I said, "What are you building?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, I go, "Do you know about woodworking?" He goes, "No, but you're going to teach me." Oh my God! And I got wrestled into it a little bit, but then I started thinking,
came for the horse on that one.
Why don't we?
Made a good decision.
Why don't we film this as I'm teaching you some basics? So I know he needs right now a thickness planer. Okay, because he's looking at raw stock, or he's looking at some reclaimed stuff, and he needs to thickness the wood, clean it up a little. Okay, that's a must. Now, his decision was, and I get this every day at Festool. Hey, and it's from pros too. They don't want to lug a table saw out to the job site. Okay? And he's trying to should I get a table saw? And I go, no, you get a track saw, you get the parallel guides, you got an MFT for your cross cutting. Okay, and I didn't mean to take this right to Festool, but he doesn't need that. He's got really limited space. And that's the other thing. When somebody's setting up shop, what space are they in? Okay, so it can be tough sometimes, because you got to know that, and you're right, Ben, that individual. You got to know what they have already, what they're looking at. So my next thing for him was, hey, get a thickness planer. Now for me, I have a thickness planer, okay, but the one thing I was missing in my shop here at the house that I really needed, and I missed it from my other shops, okay, because I have everything else, okay, is I needed a bandsaw. And I did a ton of research. So when to get back to the question is new tool purchase, I coach everybody. Do your research, do more research, and do a lot more research. Okay? Ask questions of people. Reach out to people you can trust on Instagram. Okay? Say, hey, and I think that's one of the things that maybe we were getting around about is it a new tool overall, or a decision between what size of bandsaw for me, or what brand
the
of
comparison
bandsaw?
question. The comparison question.
Hey, what are you using in your shop? I need to know. And what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. That is a more specific question that you can give a specific answer. It's just that general, what tool should I get next? It's like, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a tough thing, is neither can they.
Yep.
and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I'm 100% positive that there are so many people out there that are, you know, like I learned woodworking through YouTube. I have zero formal training whatsoever. Everything that I know how to do with woodworking, I learned by watching videos or consuming content. And so it's very overwhelming when you're first starting out and you see these very influential channels, or maybe channels where they're making really good stuff, and you see, you know, behind them an entire shop full of tools, and you're just thinking, I have to get all that to make stuff, and like you don't, you know. So Jason, so Jason, and I know that you get that question a lot. How do you respond to that question when you get it?
I mean, I can answer the question for him, and I have a video about this on my YouTube channel. I actually did a video specifically about this topic, which is why I'm actually excited that you picked it. It's one of the most common questions I get. I agree with everything you guys said, everything, ditto to all of it. But I can answer it for him, right? And I thought about this for a long time, and I finally got to the point when somebody asks me what tool should I get next, and usually I get messages and this is what the message says. Hey, Jason, wondering if I could get your advice. I currently have a shop, and I now have a table saw, a drill press, a jointer, a track saw, blah, 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 blah. What tool should be next? Which, in my opinion, like you guys, I think it's an absolutely ludicrous question.
Yeah.
I think it's ludicrous. But that tells me, but I understand where they're coming from because I was there. Mm-hmm. But I understand that they are looking at it from the perspective, and you just talked about this, Ben. I'm a woodworker. I have to have these tools to be a woodworker.
Yeah.
My question to anybody, and for me, the answer is pretty simple, and I know we'll get to other topics. It boils down to the next tool you should buy is not a tool that's on a list. It is not a tool that makes you a real woodworker, in quotations, which I cannot stand that saying. It's none of that. There is no formula to have a complete shop. There is no formula. Like somebody that's only making cutting boards for a living does not need a domino, right? But there might be some people out there like, everybody has a domino, I need one. It's ridiculous. You don't need that.
No.
My question is, tell me what tool that if you had today would make the biggest impact on what you do. So to me, it doesn't matter what they do in their shop. I don't even need to dive into that much, right? If you could pick any tool right now that would maximize your efficiency and throughput and the speed in which you build things, or make the processes faster, what tool would that be? And they'll say it would be this. That's your next tool, period. Mm-hmm. Not a bandsaw because you think you need a bandsaw. Not a drill press because you think every woodworking shop needs to have a drill press. If you're a cabinet maker, right, and a track saw is the one thing that is going to drastically increase your efficiency, or a Conturo, or any edge banding machine, or a line boring machine, or something like that. If that is what you and your business is going to be made better by that tool, that's the tool you get. I think there's two traps that people fall into. And the first one we've already addressed, and that is, I'm a woodworker. I think I need to have these woodworking tools in my shop: joiner, planer, bandsaw, table saw, all that stuff, right? Yeah. I need to have all of them because my shop won't be complete until I have them. Not true, right? The second trap that everybody falls into is, I have $1,000 that I can spend. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go to the woodworking store, and I'm going to go there, and I could buy this tool that I really need, or I could spend that $1,000 and buy 16 things that I don't really need, but I'm getting way more for my money. Mm-hmm. And I know that those are the two because you, me, Sedge probably at one point, we've all been there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a Woodcraft or a Rockler or Highland Woodworking, and it was like, okay, I need this, but man, for that same money, I could buy this sled and this set of drill bits and this sandpaper and these dominoes and this finish.
I mean, you've seen it, Jason, at the Festival Factory. They sprinkle cocaine inside the sit standers before they ship them out.
Whatever.
And that's why it's a problem. That's why I have
that's why
all
they smell
Festool.
so good when you open them up.
That's
Okay.
right. You smell like, oh my god.
I got one for you.
You get that dopamine. You get that dopamine hit. You know.
I got one for you. You ever been at look through a online catalog or a catalog and ordered or gone into a local store and ordered a router bit set because it was a good deal?
Oh yeah.
Oh god.
Good
Okay,
choice.
so out of those 10 bits,
Terrible.
how many did you actually use?
Yeah, like one or two.
Yeah, so that's what I'll coach people all the time. Do not buy the sets.
No, that
Because you're not going to use it. I've never bought a router bit set. Yes, I have. I bought a rail and style set because I use both of those bits. Okay, but I always bought individual bits. Early on, my mentor, he said, no, you don't need sets. Go get individual bits because you're only going to use a couple out of there.
router bits is the
impulse things that people,
router. Yes,
manufacturers do.
100%. Router bits is the perfect example. And I'm so glad you brought that. Yeah, you can go on Amazon right now and get one of those yellow router bit sets for like $100 and it comes with the 500 bits, right? Or whatever, however many bits it is. Now, they're all trash, they're all junk. But there might be one that you may get one use out of, and it's that rare occasion you need it. Sure, there's some benefit to that. However, router bits is that perfect, absolutely perfect example. And this was definitely me. I would go and I'd be like, router bits are relatively expensive. And I would stand there in front of the router bit cabinet at Rockler or Woodcraft or wherever I went. And I'd just be looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, ooh, I need that bit. Ooh, that would be kind of cool. And you use them once. I had router bits. I gave everything that wasn't, once I ended up partnering with Bits and Bits, and I like Whiteside's router bits, period, right? That's my favorite. And I had a bunch of Freud bits. And I actually donated them to a local woodworker before I moved. And I was going through like all of these Freud bits that I bought early on, whether it was at Home Depot or wherever they're available, because they're everywhere. And I remember opening and like never been used. I bought them. I spent the $20, $30, $40, however much they cost. I bought them thinking that I needed them and then never used them. And I just gave them away to somebody else. Router bits is the perfect example.
Yeah. I would buy things thinking, oh, I can make this with this. I can make this with this. And I literally never had the time to do it, to use it.
It's impulse buying, and that's why I said earlier, because I used to be an impulse buyer. I sit back and I have a cooling off period before I buy stuff. Like I had a list today of 2 or 3 things. Most of them were just parts, but I said, okay, you know what? Do I really need those right now because I'm going out on the road? No. I didn't order them. I was going to order them on Amazon. And I said, you know what? They're just going to sit here until I get back. I'm always looking now to buy a tool, if I need a tool, okay, as project-based. Okay?
Absolutely.
My first bandsaw, and I have this written down, my first bandsaw I bought, and God, that was something like 30 years ago. I took the missus furniture shopping. And she said, can you make that? I go, yeah, but I need a bandsaw. She goes, okay, go get the bandsaw.
Yeah.
Think about it. The piece of furniture was really expensive. I built that piece of furniture for the cost of the bandsaw. I worked it into it. And back then I started realizing, you know what? There's a lot of stuff I don't need. Now, did I inherit a lot of hand tools? Yes, from my father.
Gross.
Okay, I know you don't like hand tools, but I use a lot of hand planes.
You get a lot of sweet planes though.
Yeah, but you know what? Most of my hand tools are inherited. I still buy some. Like I bought because I needed it for larger tenons, and that was a year and a half ago, and I still haven't used it for the larger tenons. I use it for everything. I bought a bad axe handsaw, and it's worth every penny because I'll need that for these larger tenons on a project coming up. So, could I do it with other power tools? But it's not going to be as accurate that I can do it with a handsaw.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. Like, There's so many
See,
things. Ben's right. You can do tons of different things with minimal tools. A tool is a tool. It just makes certain things easier.
Like I'm the opposite of that, Sedge. Like that's what I used to do. Like I would be in the middle of doing a client build, and I would be thinking, man, if I had this, it would make this one step so much easier. And so I would go out and I would buy that tool. Like perfect example is a scroll saw. Like I had to cope. I was making a custom stool for somebody, and I had to cope some holes out. And I was like, man, if I had a scroll saw, this would be so much easier. Like it would just be faster, not necessarily better, just faster, because I had to do it at an angle. And so I went out and bought $200-$300 scroll saw, and I used it once, never touched it again, and it kind of burned me because it's like, okay, well now I've got to sell this because I don't like. So for the listener, I have a rule for myself, which is the 1 year rule. If I don't use it in a year and it doesn't have a significant like emotional value to it, I get rid of it. So that's why I don't have a lot of stuff in my workshop. In my workshop, like I love having a minimal workshop. Like every tool that I have, I use it on every project. Like every single tool, and I don't have a whole lot of tools. But that's what would happen is that would happen. Because I did all custom furniture. Like none of the things that I did were necessarily the same. There were a few Etsy shop items that were the same, but pretty much everything else was like custom design, custom built. And so I would just be, feeling the stress of delivery of a project. And it's like, man, I really need to get this done quick, because I was still active duty military. I had, family, kids, all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, I would just have a shop full of tools that I didn't really use a whole lot, and I had minimal space, and so I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna. I kind of had to change the way that I got tools, where I wouldn't do it just because I had a project coming up. Now I think you're a little bit different, Sedge. Like you're doing it a little bit of like you're kind of getting ahead of it, right? You know the project that's coming up, you know what you're gonna need. Whereas I would be in the middle of something like, man, this is taking forever. I like, what can I get that's gonna like save me time, and so that I would go out and buy it. But that just led to me having a lot of regret about the tools that I had, and so
we had a rule down in my shop, Mikey and myself, my business partner. If we could save time, let's just go get it. And then when you make that purchase, like $1,400 on a hinge boring machine. Okay, it was a no-brainer because we had to order, I think, 500 sets of hinges, Salice hinges, and they gave us
Bloom down in Florida.
Oh no, but it was a deal with
Salice
Salice from Trend, and they said we'll give you a great deal on this hinge boring machine. Oh my God, we were going to have those hinges anyhow. But then when we got that and we set it up with, with dust extraction and everything. And I thought about all those times we were setting up that stinking drill press with the 35 millimeter cup hinge. Man, we just walk over there and just start knocking out our doors. And next thing I know, everybody in our area is coming over and using a hinge boring machine. And I'm like, hello,
did you charge them?
Buck a door, dude. And that was still dirt cheap for them.
But you charged them, right?
Hell yeah.
I was gonna say.
And then guess what they said? A couple of them. Oh, we'll go get our own. I go for it.
Yeah.
They weren't like. But the thing is anytime something could save us money. Now, right before I moved out of there and moved up here to Indiana to work for Festool, Mikey and I were actually looking at a huge Brandt edge band. We were going to drop some serious coin on this, but guess what? It would have saved us a boatload of time.
Yeah.
And for us, it was time because we were limited to how many hours him and I could put in. It was just the two of us. And
in a shop, time is money.
It's always money. So if you could save that, go beg, borrow, and steal to get the right machinery in your pro shops.
Hey, can I flip this completely 180?
Yep.
No.
Okay, I'm going to do it because you're not in charge of me. Um, so we're talking about like I think we've driven that point home, right? Like Ben, you're definitely when you were describing, like, hey, I'm in the middle of something, and if I had this tool, it would make things a lot easier for me. Like that is exactly what I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
What if you're on a project and like what would make the biggest difference? That's the next tool you should buy. Period. Nothing else. That's it. Same thing with you, Sedge.
But my problem is that I wasn't thinking past just that project.
You don't need to.
No. But for me, it did, because that's how I ended up with a bunch of tools that I never used. Is because it's like, how can I save time on this one particular project? It like, buying a track saw was the smartest decision I ever did, because it saved so much time on projects after the one that I was trying to make. And so that's the point that I was trying to go with it, is that, saving time is good as long as you're saving time on multiple things. But if you're just trying to save time on like one project,
right?
May not be the best decision.
I think
like I don't want people to have that buyer's remorse of they go out and buy this one tool that they just don't ever have a use for anymore. That's just a waste of money.
Well, I think it boils more down, because that's you make a very valid point, because you're right. If you're building custom work and you're building something different every time, I can understand what you're talking about. Like a scroll saw would make this so much easier, and then you bought one and then you're like, well, I never used it again. And so I think that's a legitimate problem, and that's going to happen no matter what, right? Because you might build that project and think that that's going to be the next project that everybody's requesting, so therefore you bought that tool. But I'm not thinking of, like, I look at a scroll saw and I think of that more as like a small ticket item, a small, when I think of, like, I never get asked, small ticket items like that. It's always, I have this big tool, this big tool, this big tool. What's the next big tool I need to buy? And I think that's really the better topic of conversation, because there's always going to be accessories and stuff that you buy. But let's flip this completely opposite. And the other big thing that I get is, this kind of goes in line with the same topic, really, but it goes along with hobbyist versus professional and letting that dictate your tool purchases. And what I mean by that is somebody saying, hey, Ben, you're really into festival. And my name is Jason Bent, and I'm getting into woodworking. And I built a couple tables. I built a couple cabinets. I built a bench for my house. And I built this, and I built that. I'm really thinking about getting a domino, right? And so that's the other side of this that I get a lot of questions about. I'm a hobbyist. Can I justify the cost of that tool? Right? And so that's one thing that I also want, because I think that falls directly in line with this, because hobbyists are like, well, do I really need a joiner or planer? Do I really need a bandsaw? But I know I need one because I'm not a real woodworker if I don't have one.
No, yeah.
The conversation,
reason to buy something.
Right, but the conversation kind of goes the same. I don't care if you're a hobbyist. I don't care what you are. However you decide to spend your money, because you're spending it on tools that make you happy when you're working on stuff, that's what you should buy, right? So that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when, well, I mean, a domino would really help, and I'm just a hobbyist. Well, who cares? Is it going to make your process in the shop more enjoyable? This goes back to last podcast conversation, where people are chasing this perfection, and you're like, are you enjoying it? Right? If you're going out there and building something and you're not enjoying it because you're like, man, if only I had this one tool, but I'm a hobbyist, I can't justify it. No, the fact that you're a hobbyist and you want to enjoy what you're doing, that's the only justification that you need.
I never want someone to have the experience that I had, where I walk into my wood shop and I'm like, I have a lot of crap that I don't use. Like when I walked, there's a point to where, and this is whenever I was in woodworking years ago, when I had Valor May designs, not Ben Marshall designs. And so I like walked into my wood shop and like I had crap everywhere. And I mean like every surface was covered with stuff. And I was like, I can't even work in this because I have so much stuff that I don't even use. Or, so I never want somebody, a listener, to go through that experience of, they look at their shop and they have a little bit of regret over some of their purchasing habits. And so that was the wisdom that I want to kind of impart to anyone listening to this, which is okay, the three of us have been doing this for a while. You know, we all have different backgrounds. And so it's like, hey, what is your thought process whenever you're going for that next tool? You know?
Hey guys, I got a question for both of you. Jason, I know your shop
11
fairly well.
inches.
Okay, very nice. Okay. Do you have a scroll saw?
No.
Ben, do you still have your scroll saw?
No, I sold it.
Okay, next question. Do you think that's a pro tool or a hobbyist tool?
Depends on what you're building with it.
Depends on what you're building. And
Because it is indispensable in my shop. I use it for making templates, and I am fairly decent accurate with it. Yes, you can use a bandsaw. I have that. But, man, when I'm doing some tight
they're two totally different
forms,
things.
yeah, but I'm going to tell you what. I will never part with my scroll saw. I'm on my third one, but I've had this third one for probably 20 years.
Do you know who Lizzie from House of Timber is?
Yes, I do.
she's the one that did your sign, right?
I met her at Rubio.
She did go to that. That's right.
She's not the one that did your sign, right?
No, that's my friend Addie from Georgia. But she also does scroll saw stuff. But no, she makes those signs. Like, that's her business.
Yeah.
And without that tool, that is the most indispensable tool in her shop. So, like, I totally agree with you.
I use it all the time, like I said, for templates. I don't do scroll saw work, all the fret work. But boy, I just did these bow saw frames out to replicate that antique one, and it's indispensable. I automatically make templates so I can make multiples.
This goes back, though. That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because this goes back to what Ben was saying, is that it's an impossible question to answer because it completely depends on what you're doing.
Yep.
Yeah. She makes amazing things with a scroll saw. She that is the tool in her shop that is the most. And for me, there's no place for it in my shop. That doesn't mean it's not a valuable tool, but that is what she created her business off of, and she's very, very good at it.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you guys this then: is there any tool that you have right now that's in your shop that you either regret purchasing, or that you, if you could sell it right now, you could? Do you have any tools like that?
Absolutely.
What about you, Sedge?
I have a tool on Craigslist right now that I bought many years ago. I used it. I love it, but I've upgraded it. Mm-hmm. So this is an older model.
Stop keeping me hanging. What is it?
Oh, it's my Veritas Sharpening System. It uses sandpaper on a disc. It's the original version. It's got a wire wheel on it. Some people put a grinding stone, but it's dry sharpening. It's a little
dry
bit.
What?
Sharpening.
Oh, okay. I couldn't understand your lingo.
But I just got a Tormac to try out. I'm like I said, I'm a hand tool guy,
nice.
And I've sharpened flat. I've sharpened with stones, whether Arkansas or Japanese wet, and I did a lot with sandpaper on glass or sandpaper on a really flat surface. And I'm just getting into doing some heavy duty grinding to take care of some old plane blades where the flat is a little bit slower. So I'm gonna grind them, and the Tormac is unbelievable. So.
I used to get into heavy-duty grinding back in my younger days at the club.
Oh, my God. As I say some of this stuff, I just kind of know what
I was hoping that you guys were going to say no, that you don't have any tools that you would, because I don't have any tools that I want to get rid of. Like, every single tool that I have in my shop, I use it, and like no tools go wasted pretty much in my shop.
Yeah, but you're in a different scenario, though.
No, I know.
You were in it. You got out of it. You went back into it, and you knew from the mistakes that you had made before.
I got another one for you. I use it. I lend it out more now but boy, when I need it. I'll never get rid of my Sawzall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm looking over here, and I have it up. Up top, I get a Dremel.
That's true.
Okay.
I have a Sawzall too.
Dremel. There's a really good example.
But guess what?
when you need it, it's very handy.
It's there. If I
Yeah.
need a bolt that I got to cut off or something, I have an angle grinder, but I don't use that much anymore. I might get rid of it because...
If you do, let me know.
Okay. I mean, I got
Wait,
a
is it
lot
an
of
AGC?
tools. No.
Oh, then I don't want it.
No.
Okay, so Sedge mentioned earlier how he kind of makes himself wait pretty much before he buys a new tool, right? So Jason, what do you do when you don't have companies that are just throwing tools at your face? When you actually have to
sad because
buy
everybody
something.
thinks that. So I did a live the other night, and somebody had asked me like, what's your next big tool purchase or any big things on and I'm like, no, I can't think of anything. And I felt that way for a very long time. The Harvey bandsaw, they sent it to me, but I'm sponsored by Harvey, right? I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to hide it, but I got that for a reason, right? I wanted more capacity than the Powermatic that I had, and now I have it. But in terms of other big tools, like there's nothing that I feel I have a need for. You know what I mean?
I'm glad we're recording this.
Yeah, there's that.
You are now on
Yeah. Oh, he's clearly
tape.
bad.
That's gonna be so hard to edit.
But hold on, you didn't let me finish. So with me, when I was coming up in all of this, every extra dollar I had, I put back into my shop. Every single extra dollar. And I was one of those people. I was buying a bunch of stuff that I thought I needed. And Ben, you talking about like you're a very minimalist woodworker. It actually makes me want to start going through my drawers and like clearing stuff out that I know I'm not going to use, because there is plenty of things in my shop that I have not touched since I've been in this shop, which is over a year, and even in my previous shop. And it does give me a little bit of motivation to kind of go through that and get rid of some of these things. But there are tools to go back to your original question. While I'm not looking at any major tool purchases, is there tools in my shop that you said that do you regret buying? I don't know if there's necessarily anything that I regret, any major tool that I regret. However, there are major tool purchases that I've made that I could live without.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that item is the drum sander. And people cannot believe
the bane of your existence.
That I say that stuff, but I mean, it's while it is extremely helpful to have in some
It's
scenarios,
a luxury tool. It's a luxury tool.
It's a luxury tool. And I can do a lot of the same things with other means, but at the same time, it does make certain tasks a little bit faster. But could I live without it? Yes. Could I live without a drill press? Yes. Could I live without a miter saw? Yes. There's a lot of things that I could live without, but that doesn't mean I don't want them in my shop. And for me, I have a very hard time of letting things go. The TS-70...
I'm so quick with it. I'm like, I don't need it. Bye.
See, I have a hard time, and Sedge, I'm glad Sedge brought up that point, because this is something that I wanted to make sure we talked about. But Sedge said, I'll never get rid of a Sawzall. I didn't even have one until I just recently bought one, and it's an invaluable tool when I'm doing home renovation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to use it in my shop, and I'll probably use it maybe 10 more times, while I live in this house, maybe doing renovation stuff. But it's very good at what it does. Same thing with the drum sander, but right now it just takes up a bunch of space, and when I'm looking around going, how can I save space? What's the first tool that would go? Well, for me, it'd be the drum sander. But again, I don't regret buying the tool. If anything, I wish I could downsize it, to get the 1632. But it's just one of those things where it's nice to have. But for me, it's hard to let go. And a really good example of that is the TS-75. I already sold the TS-55. I sold it to a local guy here. And because I don't need it anymore, because I'm using the TS-UK.
Just in case that one time you need that 75.
Exactly. But here's the reality, though. The only reason I bought the TS-75 is one, because I have two reasons. I have a disgusting sickness with Festool Green, right?
That's true.
Which I think anybody can relate to.
We're all guilty.
And I was cutting a 2-inch thick walnut countertop for a friend of mine, and I overheated the motor basically because I was trying to make a full cut depth pass, using the standard crosscut blade.
Crosscut blade, yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I need a TS-75 because it's one more reason to buy another Festool product, right? So I bought it. And at the time, I had my little MFT cart. So I kept my TS-55 at the MFT cart, and I was using the 75 at my assembly table, when in reality, I never had to do that. Since I've moved into the shop, I've not turned that thing on one time. And there's a part of me that, I need to get rid of it. There's no point. everything I need to do, well, I'll just borrow yours. Everything I need to do, I can do with that new TSTK. And because I don't keep material thick enough to need that in my shop. I don't do anything where I need that depth ever. 8/4 is the biggest lumber I ever have in my shop. I'm not doing client work. This track saw can handle everything, but I'm having a very hard time letting it go. Because I have it.
It's like a fear thing where you're
Yes.
like,
As soon as I let it go, I'll need it.
yeah.
Yep.
It's like getting rid of a jig, right? You take 2 or 3 hours to make a jig,
Yeah.
right? And
I
you
don't know
pass
anything
it,
about that. I'll buy them before I ever build.
And you,
Well, you have
right? And
Jason has a
then
CNC,
you
he can make
pass
his own
it.
templates.
Oh, do I?
Then you pass that wood,
Don't do
pass the table saw, pass your router, and then do you throw the jig away? No, you put it up on the wall.
I throw it away. I'll make it again later.
No way. So I want to go back a little bit. And you were talking about that drum sander, okay? And you said, oh, I could get rid of my miter saw. How the hell can you do that?
No.
I could live without a miter saw.
You can take the miter saw away from my cold dead fingers.
Yeah, and
it's
how
not.
about
It's
how
not that I have
about
anything
this?
against that miter saw. I'm just saying if I'm thinking of tools that I could absolutely live
I
without
just love it.
and get by, but I mean, I could say here. I'm going to blow your mind. I could get rid of my table saw too.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Because
I don't even
my
have
assembly table.
I can do that.
Yeah, but my assembly table, the way that I built my assembly table, serves every single purpose of all of those machines with the exception of the dados, which I could do with a router. Now, that's a whole nother conversation, and I think that should be a whole nother topic for the show. But
Yep.
it goes back to you can do a lot with the tools you have. Just going back to the argument of the domino. I don't need the domino to make those. You're right, you don't. However, the domino does that task much faster. Same thing with the table saw, same thing with a miter saw, same thing with all those things.
So-
I have an argument for that, but go ahead, Sedge.
I got one. First thing I bought for my home shop that I know I didn't have in Festool, because I'm lousy drilling holes. As I bought a drill press. I can't live without a drill press.
You can't say it either.
But seriously, I mean, those are staples I think everybody needs in a shop.
You know what's funny though? But see again, you think that's a staple that everybody needs in the shop because it's dependent on your experiences, what you do. However, hold on, let me finish this, Ben.
No.
It's what you do. You know, the only time, 99% of the time I use a drill press, you know what I use a drill press for?
Cabinets?
Drilling.
That's it? No, I'm just kidding. Drilling the hinge holes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Mine's set up with a 5mm tab right now. If I'm using a hinge that has a 5mm tab, I go over to my drill press and it's set. I don't have to do anything with it.
So you can drill perfectly at 90 with a hand drill.
I don't use a lot of screws.
No, I'm not talking about screws. I'm talking about drilling holes, like with a Forstner bit.
Oh, I can drill holes all day long, Sedge.
Okay, drilling perpendicular, perfect.
Are we talking about woodworking still?
Yeah. I'm telling Oh my God.
This podcast is awesome.
This is a family podcast. Come on.
I didn't say what I was talking about. Get your
I'm
mind
gonna
out
have to
of
change the explicitity rating on these.
Oh.
Again, yes, but I mean, there's not, like, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Of course not. However, with the majority of the things that I'm using a Forstner bit for, again, it just goes back to the type of woodworking that you're doing, which is why it's impossible to answer this question on what tools somebody needs.
Well, and I'll say this, Edge, like there have been many times where I was like, man, I wish I had a drill press right now, but I can't justify the purchase of it because I don't need that much. There have been many times where I was like, man, a drill press would be so great in this particular application, but I don't do this enough to need a drill press. It just would have been nice to have. If I had like a wicked neighbor with one, but
here's a good example. I mean, you saw Sedge. I didn't have it in this shop, but before I moved, you remember the Powermatic that I had.
Yeah.
I had the big Powermatic PM, whatever, 2100 or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And great drill press would serve every purpose I could ever throw at a drill press. So when I moved, I'm like, get rid of it. Because one, I don't want to move it. And two, I don't ever use it for the capacity that it is. So I downgraded. I wouldn't say downgraded in cost because that damn benchtop Nova cost as much as I sold the Powermatic for. But I don't find myself with a need for more capacity. You know what I mean? But again, like I said, it just goes back to like the way that you do things are different from the way that I do things. The way that I do things and you do things are different than the way Ben does things. And
which is why I wanted to really, for the three of us to really nail down, like, fundamentally, what does your process look like for when you buy a new tool? Like you said how you kind of make yourself wait, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Jason, like, what is, I think your staple is, like, what is going to make the biggest impact right now, right? Like, would you say that's the thread that kind of makes or guides your tool purchases? Like, what is going to give me the biggest?
It's what it did guide my tool purchases when I was doing custom work. And there's another key aspect that we haven't discussed, and that is, where are you in your woodworking process? Because for me back then, that's a very valid reason. Like, what's going to make the biggest impact for me right now? I was trying to build a tool collection. So the way I look at tools right now, which is what most people that are asking me that question, they're in that, I'm serious about woodworking. I like it. I'm trying to build more tools. I want to get more serious about this. What's
they're
next?
diving deeper into the hobby.
Exactly. So they're trying to build that tool collection, and then they'll get to a point where, like, for me now, I'm not like, if I'm scouring, stores, I'm looking for, like, small little things that I think might be helpful for a specific task that don't cost a lot of money. And I think everybody will eventually get to that point.
You're just trying to move.
Have the major tool purchases.
Yeah, you're just trying to move a yard at a time, right?
Correct.
Towards the goalpost. Whereas people that are just now starting out, they're trying to get fourth and down. They're trying to move big distance over.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that I would say is, this doesn't really, I don't think I'm the best candidate for what I'm about to say, but you get to a point, I never encourage people like, oh, you're getting into woodworking? Cool. Go out and buy a saw-stop table saw. That should be your first table saw. I am a buy once, cry once kind of guy, but I'm also a learn how to use the damn tool and then buy once, cry once, right? Buy a cheap table saw and figure out how to use the damn thing. Buy a cheap joiner, buy a cheap planer, figure out how to operate the machine. Then when you want to get more serious about it and get a larger tool, then that's when I tell you, don't go, okay, well, I'm going to go from this 4-inch bench top to a 6-inch rigid. No, don't do that. Go from the 4-inch bench top to an 8-inch floor standing if you have the space. You know why? And get a good brand, because you won't have to worry about it again after that.
I tell everybody when they ask me, should I get this from Festool versus another brand? And I'll say, listen, it's a few bucks more, maybe more than a few bucks more, but it's worth it. Save your money. You don't need it right away. But what should I get? I get this on a daily basis. Hey, I own this from Festool. What should I get for my next purchase? Then I ask, hey, what are you doing? What are you building? And someone will say, and I'll go back to what you guys were talking about the domino. I'll tell everybody there's a lot of other ways to skin the cat. Okay, but I would say buy the domino, because it'll make your woodworking joinery more pleasurable. It shouldn't be that easy, but it is. The domino is the game changer.
When people ask me, Sedge, when they ask me that, they say, should I get this Festool or this other brand? You know what I respond to them with?
I slap them in the face.
Is
like,
that
how
other
dare
brand
you mention?
I say, is that other brand Festool? And they say no.
Okay, so
no.
I think everybody listening to this podcast knows I work for Festool.
You do?
But
hey, give me some free tools.
I will have
you work for Festool.
I will have a disclaimer on this. My first set of Festool was purchased by me in my shop in Fort Lauderdale. I had no affiliation with them.
Whatever.
Okay, you want to hear whatever?
Whatever.
All the tools here in this shop I've bought as well that are Festool.
That's true.
Whatever. They gave you everything.
But do I get to test everything for free?
Yeah, you do.
It's all a part of getting trained up. All right, so... Oh, go ahead, Sedge.
Nope, I'm good.
So, I'm coming on two sides of this, where I was in the quote-unquote professional side of it, and I don't even want to say that. I was more in the commerce side of it, of woodworking, right? And now I'm in the hobbyist side of it, but I also make content about it. And so, I said it earlier where I never want someone to regret the tool purchases that they're making. And so, you guys kind of shared your guidelines that you kind of give yourselves for purchasing tools. And so I wanted to kind of give mine, right? So one of the first things that I think about whenever I am looking at buying a new tool is the first kind of like guide that I have for myself is I will only start looking for a new tool when the capabilities of my skill set exceed the limitations of the tool that I'm trying to use. So I only went and purchased the domino when the joinery techniques that I was trying became limited with the tools that I had at the time. Right? Like I wanted to do more as far as joinery goes. And what I wanted to do, what I was capable of doing, and what I wanted to do was limited by the tools that I had at the time present, right? And so I was like, okay, now I'm ready to buy a domino. Because what I want to do, I can't do with the current tools that I have now. I've already perfected the techniques with the tools that I have. And I want to do more, and I can't because...
perfected the techniques. Carry on.
And so that's and really that goes into like upgrading, right? Like whenever it came time for me to when I bought my TS-75, which I've bought twice. All of my Festool I've bought twice, with the exception of my VAC.
It's a weird flex.
Yeah. But no, that just goes to show how much I love Festool. I bought all of them twice, or I bought all of them again after I sold them the first time. Like I could only get so far with a circular saw and a straight edge, or I could only get so far with just a table saw. I was like, I want cleaner edges. I want more parallel rips, and the only way that I can do that is if I get a track saw. That's whenever I decided to buy the next tool. And I do that with all of my tools now. When it comes to sanders, saws, drills, like whatever. It's when I know that I can get better results, but I just can't get it with the tools that I have now. And the next one is, can I get this tool cheap right now? So like if it's like something brand new, like if you're just now getting into woodworking, don't go out and buy everything new. Buy things that are used, especially locally. Because if you're able to buy it locally, that means that there's a little bit of a demand for it. And let's, like with wood turning, right? I bought a lathe. Just because I'd never turned anything, I didn't know what the experience was like. I wanted to try it out to see if I liked it. I didn't like it. But I bought the lathe. I turned a few things. I'm like, it's not for me. Like, it's not getting its hooks in me. And I sold it a few months after I got it. But I bought it used and I sold it used. I think I spent $20 total after buying it and then reselling it. I lost $20, but I got the experience of knowing, hey, I really don't like wood turning. So again, if you're just not getting into woodworking, try to buy used first, again, depending on your financial situation, because you may start down this path and then you may hit a point where you're like, I really don't like this, or maybe I just don't like this particular part of it. Maybe you're more about CNC work or laser cutting or hand tools only or power tools only. Just the point being is just try things first, but at a smaller scale so that you're not overcommitting yourself financially to going down this rabbit hole. Because there was this guy on the Festool Owners Group forum, and I for the life of me have tried to find this post for the last 2 years. And it was an old post. It was like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And this doctor had spent like $30,000 on Festool. The post was, hey, I'm selling all of my stuff. Because he dropped $30K on a whole bunch of expensive tools, but the guy didn't have the skill set to use it. So he thought that expensive tools were going to make him a good woodworker, when it's really the opposite. It's good skills that make you a good woodworker.
That's not true. No, that's not true. You buy the expensive tools and you're a professional immediately. It's a fact. It's science, Ben.
Do you know how many people I have, Ben? I have heard that story so many times over the years. I have seen it. People think that they want or they would like when they retire to be a woodworker and do woodworking. So they buy for like 2 years. They retire at 65, and they sell everything at when they're 66 because they didn't realize, boy, there's a lot of work in this woodworking.
Yeah, well, it's 90% work, 10% wood.
It's interesting that you brought that up because I just saw on the Festival Owners Group a post. You may have seen it too because I know you're on there. A guy in Ohio that's like selling his entire festival shop.
Mm-hmm.
Like every tool he has, it's all festival stuff. He had a CMS, and if he doesn't sell the entire shop as a whole, I might.
If there's a CMS for sale, I would definitely pick it up.
Yeah,
I love my CMS.
Anyway, I'm sorry we interrupted you. Finish the thoughts.
But so that particular point goes back to my first guideline, which is I don't buy up in tool until I am really good at using the tools that I have now, and I want to be able to do more. I want to achieve more. And you know, the third thing is I do exactly what Sedge does. If there's a tool that I really want, even if it's a really small one, and I'm like, man, I could be so much quicker if I bought this. I still wait to get it. Like, I don't impulse purchase anything anymore. I research everything. I watch videos. There's this douchebag on YouTube named Jason Bent. He may or may not have, you know.
We can edit that to just say
a huge
DB.
What? Were you going to say something?
DB.
I heard his videos are fantastic.
So at the beginning of the podcast, you guys,
very
here's a tool because you just brought it up, Ben. At the beginning of the podcast,
are you talking about yourself? Sorry.
At the beginning of the podcast, you guys said, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I said, "Yeah, this morning I turned a couple handles. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go out and buy handles. I'm going to turn them. I turn on my lathe when I need it. I'm a utility turner, and I don't this lathe that I have. I'm looking at it right now. It's probably 30 years old. It's an old Delta. Parts are broken on it. I can't justify going to get a new tool because guess what? It works. Yeah. And this morning, within an hour, I had 2 black palm blank that I had for about 20 years that I finally turned out to 2 beautiful handles for the bow saw I'm building.
Man, you know what you need?
I love
you need a Harvey lathe.
Making things. Yeah, I do. I'd like
Jason, do you have any affiliate links for that?
Yeah, you know
Harvey, you listening to this?
I could use a
Look up Sedge tool.
Lathe. But you know what? It's there when I need it.
Yeah.
And if sometimes at Christmas, I know somebody who I see what they're looking at throughout the year, and I'm like, oh, I can turn that. I'll just turn something really quick for them for Christmas, and like maybe a tool handle or something like that. So it's really tough to part with tools that are essential that you need when you need them.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, unless do you guys turn on your? I'm looking over here in my shop. Do you guys turn on? You guys have oscillating benchtop spindle sanders?
Jason did. You still have yours, Jason?
Yeah.
I did. I had an old Delta. I turned it on. I hadn't turned it on in years. Last year, and the thing smoked on me.
Yeah, but you have the rigid too, don't you?
But then I went out and I needed it, so I went and got the rigid.
So
I was doing a template. Now, I've also just cut these bow saw frame handles, and I'm going to be using it. So do I use it every month, every 2 months? No, but it's there when I need it because for me, it's an essential tool.
That's a good point. Like, mine's completely out of the way. It doesn't take up any space, and I've looked at it a bunch lately because I haven't used it since I've been in the new shop until I use those U-scribe jigs and I cut my filler strips. And when I do my filler strips, I like to put a back bevel on the back side of them, so that clean edge is like right up against the wall. So I put it at like a 3 or 5 degree. Put the table at a 3 or 5 degree bevel, and I just sanded back to that line, and it worked perfectly. I mean, the scribes turned out fantastic, but that was that perfect opportunity where it was like, holy cow, like, I'm so glad I had this.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why, like, Ben has the 1 year rule, and I have a hard time for that because it's like when you do need it, and I know me, I know me. If I let's say I get rid of the TS75. This is what would happen. I'm telling you. I get rid of the TS75.
You would buy it in about 2 months.
I come into a scenario where I need a TS75. I'm going straight back to the store and trying to buy one.
No, you're gonna say, Sedge, I need to borrow it.
That's true. I would just use yours, and I'd probably break it.
No. I mean, I got an upcoming project where I didn't have a Domino XL.
Oh.
And I just bought one.
I have a. What about that project that you needed the Conturo for, and you had to borrow mine?
Chum. Absolutely.
Chum.
I grabbed your.
Has never worked the same since.
Yeah, you're full of it. I cleaned it up. It wasn't working right.
Yeah, it actually has cobwebs on it right now.
Yeah, but
I feel terrible.
By the way, I want to let you guys know my next purchase at Festool is a Conturo.
I love mine.
I cannot work.
It's amazing.
God, I love it.
It is honestly.
I don't have anything at the.
It's like my favorite tool when I use it.
Oh my God, it's
awesome.
so awesome to use. It's so awesome.
When I do my kitchen, I'm going to edge band everything instead of hardwood edge banding.
I've made projects out of plywood when I could have used like raw lumber just because I wanted to have an excuse to use the Conturo.
Awesome. It's so much fun to use.
It works, right?
Oh my God, that thing it's like the whole system. It's so awesome. Anyway, so
I love it.
So again, going back to the main point, you have to make that choice, or you have to make that decision of what tool you need next. And the last bit of advice that I'll give to our listeners on how to decide which tool to use next is whenever I'm like doing a lot of projects and I do think to myself, man, I wish I had this. Man, I wish I had that. Like I write those things down. I made an Instagram post about this a few months ago where you tally up how many times you've told yourself, I wish I had a drill press. And after a few months, or weeks or whatever, and you've said to yourself after every project, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. You're probably not going to regret that tool purchase because you've already had several instances where you needed it. And you've said to yourself, if I had this tool, I could have done this better, or I could have done it quicker, or whatever the case is, and that, like, I can't remember the last time I've bought a tool. I think it's been over a year since I've bought a tool. Now, granted, I am not making as much as anybody else is. Like, it took me 7 months to make a coffee table, so I think that if I were making more on a daily basis like you guys are, that my techniques would probably be a little bit different, but that I think fundamentally it's still sound. And that kind of will hopefully help you, the listener, from either overbuying in tools like Sedge has seen people do, or like I've seen people do, or even myself I've done. Because it kind of goes back to the point, Jason, you brought up earlier about what we talked about in the previous podcast of, you want to be buying tools or doing things that still make you happy, that you still enjoy the process of woodworking. If it comes to a point to where it's like you're just no longer liking what you're doing, or you have so much negative energy or connotations about what you're doing, you're not making the right decisions on what tool to get next. And so there are, different layers of techniques that you can apply to prevent you from buying the wrong tool next. Mm-hmm. So that's what I use to buy tools. And like I said, there are no tools that I have that I regret having. I have the Conturo that I bought. It was the most expensive tool I have at the moment. But man, do I love that thing. I love it. I even love the smell of it, I do, man.
I love the smell of all Festool things.
It's very true.
You guys make me laugh.
But do you guys have anything else you want to pitch on the topic before we kind of close it out?
No, I think the horse has been beat enough.
Yeah. Jason, I have a hateful comment, but I want to know if you have any hateful comments that you want to share.
You do?
I do. And if you have any ready, you can go to read them because I got to pull it up.
Everyone hates Jason!
And you've seen the Patreon comment. I think
Yes,
the voice
that was
needs to come
John,
back.
Texas Yankee Carpentry.
I think the voice needs to come back.
It's going to. So he says, John, Texas Yankee Carpenter said, it reminded him of from the first episode. It reminded him of what was his name from Dodgeball.
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller from Dodgeball.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
Michelle.
That's right.
So I'm going to read one while Ben's looking up his. So the world hates Jason, and tonight apparently the world hates Jason and Ben. All right, Ben, are you ready?
Go ahead, buddy.
This was 21 hours ago.
Man, my subs are jumping up.
I have some really good ones actually, but there's a ton from the metric video, but I'm gonna forego those. I don't even respond to them anymore. But here it is. This is from the simple chair build. This is the one where I built that little nesting chair with Jay Bates templates. This was the comment. Oh, this is so hard for me to do with the voice. All right. Templates, miter saw, router table, jointer, bandsaw, drum sander, planer. How about I just buy the chairs? Might save me $2,000.
Troll.
Unbelievable. Like serious. Really? Like I can't. You want to talk about a pet peeve of mine? That is when I do the 10 tools everybody should own. I did that tool video. At no point, no, I take that back. A better example, 5 tools to buy early on. That was the name of the video. I didn't say buy these tools before you buy anything else. It was these 5 tools I wish I would have gotten sooner because they made a big difference in my shop. Biscuit joiner was one of them, for example. I can't tell you how many comments I got from people that were like, oh yeah, right. Because I'd buy a biscuit joiner before I would buy a table saw. What an idiot. Like, seriously? And because I titled the video Simple Chair Build. Simple Chair Build. Yeah, it's simple. And it's assuming that you have some common tools in your shop. God, I hate YouTube. I hate YouTube lately. Ben, while you're finding yours, I'm going to find another one.
I've got it.
I'm
I have
amped up. All right, go ahead.
I have.
The
All right,
world
so this-
hates Ben.
So this, oh man, this is almost a year ago to the day. So this is in my video, 6 safe options to haul wood when all you own is a car. Okay. So this guy says, number 1 problem, you own a Prius. Go move to California, hippie.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
I didn't know that hippies were in Toyota's demographic for Priuses.
Yeah.
Jeez,
I didn't
man.
know you were.
In all
Man,
fairness,
I didn't
I've
know
been
you
saying
were a
that for
tree
years.
hugger.
Golly, man. He doesn't even know about my other channel either.
My God.
My all-electric vehicle channel either. That's totally not the reason why I own a Prius, though, buddy. But thanks for asking. Clearly, he hasn't seen my other videos where I say why I have a Prius. But it's just like, I don't know. I hope that helps him feel better for the day.
I always
Yeah.
just say thanks for sharing.
It's no.
There we
I
go.
told him.
No,
I
what's your
said,
favorite
tell me.
catch-up?
I said, tell me how you really feel. He hasn't. It's been
I
4
respond, good
days,
for you.
and I'm waiting for his response, and still
So-
nothing yet. So
I actually had a second comment that I was going to read today. I had it screenshotted and everything. And matter of fact, I'm going to read. I'll tell you what the comment was. I'm not going to read it, and I won't do it in a stupid voice. But the comment was, so I released a Harvey bandsaw assembly video yesterday. I had no intention on doing it. Harvey decided not to put it on their YouTube channel, so they said that I could put it on mine. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put it on there. It'll help some people out. Well, of course, immediately. And funny thing is that video is actually doing better than most of the other videos I posted recently. But it was just a quick overview of how I went about setting up the bandsaw. And somebody wrote a comment, and it said, is this an honest unboxing or was this a free tool? And I was like,
how does that make a difference?
I was so blown away because I'm like, what in the hell is this person asking? And
It's an honest unboxing.
Yeah, I responded I said,
I'm going to unbox this dishonestly.
Yeah. So I responded. I was so blown away, right? And there was a lot of like back-ended like screw yous comments like right off the bat. It was really weird. But I just don't think people understand how like advertising works. Like, yes, like Harvey sponsors me. I'm very open about that. I put it was a paid promotion, even though they didn't pay me for that video specifically, but I did get the tool for free, you know? So like, it was just to show like, hey, here's the steps I took. And is this an honest unboxing? So I wrote back and I said, and this is a really good example of how you never
honestly
really know.
No, it's not.
Yeah, no. You never really know. You can't tell by people's texts.
No.
Right? Like what their intent is.
There's no context.
And this is a perfect example of that because I wrote back and I said, yes, this was a free tool as Harvey is a sponsor of mine. However, I think I put something like, I don't know how I could have been any more honest or dishonest with an unboxing. And so then, of course, he responded and clarified, you know, which was fine. And he was like, I guess I wrote that wrong. Now that I look at it, I should have said, you know, were you doing this just because you got a free tool, or did you actually put some thought into what Bandsaw you wanted next? And I'm like, okay, so that's just a really good example of how you never really know, but sometimes you just know. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he wants me to move to California, so there's no lack of context
hippie.
there.
Shut up, hippie. No one cares what you think. You're off this podcast.
Up the Iron
Tree
79.
hugger.
If you can give me some neighborhood recommendations, I'd really appreciate it.
You probably use patchouli oil too, don't you? Hippie. What?
Patchouli oil? What?
Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about.
Do you want that to be an honest or a dishonest answer?
No. All right, so should we wrap this thing up?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
My
Sedge's
battery's
got to
about
get
to
sleep.
die.
It's like 4 hours past his bedtime.
Oh, sure.
8:30 on a Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he's got to get up at 4 so he can go down to the gym and do some squats.
Oh, Sedge, you saw my post about I keep taking a lot of my old firewood and using the HL850 with it.
Oh, I love that, dude.
Dude. Oh, man, that stuff came up really square, too. I'm really proud of it. I'm going to...
right now?
Unsung Hero, HL850.
100%. I'm probably going to turn that into a tabletop.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Cool.
No,
All
we
right.
can't hear you, Jason.
I was just wondering if my mute actually worked.
Oh.
Sorry. All right, do you want me to close this thing out?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Am I the closer?
Closer.
Sure.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Green Suiters Podcast. If you guys want to support one of our
Wait.
Every
Jason.
time, Ben, you do this to me. Every time.
I'm
Literally
so
go back and
happy
listen to every
with...
episode.
Go ahead.
I'm so happy with my Thug Life video that I edited.
It was fantastic. I spit my beer all over the place.
It was so awesome. I was sitting there editing. I'm like, you know, going through our videos, and I'm like, I need to pull some really good clips. And so I saw that. I'm like, I'm gonna make Jason that Thug Life video.
Dude, you know what else you need to do? When we do the World Hates Jason, and I'm like reading the comments or whatever. I thought about this today because I saw the Thug Life, you know, little thing, and I'm like, oh, that was really popular on TikTok and Instagram. You know what else? There's like this Mexican dude where they do something funny, and this Mexican dude just like it shows to him, and he's just like laughing. He's just like, like forever. It was really popular. We should totally do that after I read one in the comments, and you just put it on that guy.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, can I start over again? Yes.
Go ahead, closer.
Yeah. Yes. All right, everybody. Let's hope Ben doesn't interrupt me again during the closing. I don't even know where I was going. But if you guys want to support us, you can go over to Patreon and support one of the 74 tiers that we have over there. You can do anything from 7 cents all the way to $13.28. It's a really weird structure the way he did that. But anyways, go over there. Go over there. Check us out. Patreon.com, Green Suiters Podcast. You can support
Thanks,
us
you guys.
If not, if you guys don't want to support us on Green Suiters Patreon, yeah, that's totally fine. What we would ask is that if this is on Apple now, at the time of this recording, when it's on Apple, leave us a review. We've had some issues trying to get the stuff uploaded to Apple. It'll eventually get there. But leave us a review. Apparently that helps. That's what everybody says. Do that and share this. Share this with all of your friends. Let's make this thing grow. I know I'm super excited about this. I really enjoy doing it, even though I don't like either one of the guys that are on the podcast with me. But it is what it is.
You get that 9%, man.
Yeah, I do get 9%. Sedge gets 1.
That's right.
Whatever.
All right. Thanks, you guys. And
Whatever.
we'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Peace out. Say bye, Sedge.
Bye there.
I said say bye, Sedge.
Bye there. See you later.
You're supposed to say
All right.
bye.